they'll say, oh, he was chicken. He was chicken.
Oh.
That's so unbelievable.
He's still mad. Oh, the chicken thing actually pissed him off, huh? Oh, Taco Trump is bad, dude. On the one hand, I think it's really funny. On the other hand, I think it's really dangerous. I think it's really dangerous that he's this insecure that this could like cause him to KFC double down on a bunch of crazy. Anyway, here is Trump taking questions from reporters in the Oval Office earlier today.
She's an incredible person, an incredible woman. As our new interim United States Attorney for the District of Columbia, that's a big deal. And I'd like to congratulate Janine and her whole family. And we have Christine with us, and Alex, I know, is in a very, very important place right now. And the two children, but they're not children anymore. And I've heard that Christine, you're doing unbelievably well and very successful at a great law firm. So it's great to have you with us. Thank you very much. Over 5 decades, Janine Pirro, known by millions as Judge Janine, has devoted her life to the pursuit of justice, the defense of freedom, and the fair, equal, and impartial rule of law. And that's what she's about. She was a great DA. I remember her very well. She was as good as anybody I've seen. She began a career in 1975 as an assistant district attorney in Westchester County, New York, where she prosecuted violent crimes, and that was a serious prosecution. And she went after real criminals, not fake criminals like we seem to do today nowadays, people that shouldn't be prosecuted, including rape, murder, and was a tireless warrior on behalf of the most vulnerable people in our society. In that role, Janine helped create one of our country's first domestic violence bureaus. I think it was the first, Janine. And as its chief.
Okay, we're going to skip to the questions because I can't stand him glazing Janine Pirro. I think it's wild that Janine Pirro, I guess it's not that wild that Janine Pirro is a part of the administration. It's probably the most expected outcome. God, what a time to be alive, dude. She's drunk all the time and she's a Fox News personality. Makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense for Trump to put her up. It's just we are living in the alternative timeline, I think. Something dramatically shifted in the world. Something dramatically shifted in the world, and now we're living in this different world. And for those who were alive before this dramatic shift happened, every day that goes by is like another step in the descent to madness. Maybe it was Harambe. I don't know.
We have no doubt you're going to be fantastic.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, Mr. President, Mr. President, Mr. President.
On Russia, Mr. President. Do you believe the Russians are being disrespectful when they say that your criticisms of Putin are simply an emotional response? And do you still believe that Putin actually wants to end the war?
I can't tell you that, but I'll let you know in about 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, we're going to find out very soon. We're going to find out whether or not he's tapping us along or not. And if he is, we'll respond a little bit differently. But it'll take about a week and a half, 2 weeks. We have Mr. Witkoff is here, who's doing a phenomenal job, is dealing with them very strongly right now. They seem to want to do something, but until the document is signed, I can't tell you. Nobody can. I can say this. That I'm very disappointed at what happened a couple of nights now, where people were in the middle.
He's very disappointed. He's just so sad. He's like, Vladimir, how could you do this to me?
Of what you would call a negotiation. I'm very disappointed by that. Very, very disappointed. Yeah, please.
You've called for an end to the Gaza war. Given the growing humanitarian crisis and the decision of Prime Minister Netanyahu to expand the military operation, do you have any frustration with his handling of the situation of the war?
No, we're dealing with the whole situation in Gaza. We're getting food to the people of Gaza. It's been a very nasty situation, very nasty fight. October 7th was a very nasty day, the worst that I think I've ever seen. It was a horrible day, and people aren't going to forget that either. So we'll see how that all works out. And Steve, would you want to say a couple of words about Gaza, because you just have some information? Steve Witkoff, do you want to come up for a second? You might give them a little bit of information as to what's happening with Gaza and also Israel. We're having some very good talks with Iran. We'll find out whether that means anything, but we're having good talks.
Congratulations. Well, hi, everybody. I think we I think that we are on the precipice of sending out a new term sheet that hopefully will be delivered later on today. The President is going to review it, and I have some very good feelings about getting to a long-term resolution, temporary ceasefire, and a long-term resolution, a peaceful resolution of that conflict.
Boo is a lie. Remember, I covered this earlier today. Is a lie. They could make Israel do this literally yesterday. They could make Israel do this tomorrow. They are lying. I need you to understand. This is no different than Biden saying we're working tirelessly around the clock for a ceasefire. This is no different than Kamala Harris saying that. Okay, this is no different than Anthony Blinken being like, yep, we're working on it. They're not working on it. There is no need to work on it. Okay, the ceasefire negotiation that has taken up many different forms. Okay, the ceasefire process is entirely dictated by Israel's inability to contend with the ceasefire because Israel is using the hostages and using October 7 as a mechanism to do permanent ethnic displacement of all Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. That's it. Anyone that doesn't realize this reality is silly, lying to themselves. And America has all of the power to put an end to it. They could do it instantly.
It's having to do with Iran. We're having very good talks with
Mr. President, you said yesterday that Putin is playing with fire. What will be the consequences for Russia if Russia continues?
Well, I'm not going to tell you exactly, but the words speak pretty loud. We're not happy about that situation. I think we're doing very well with Iran. I think we're doing very well with Gaza, but we are doing very well with Iran, and I think we're going to see something very sensible, because there are only two outcomes. You know what the two outcomes is: a smart outcome and there's a violent outcome, and I don't think anybody wants to see the second. But I think we've made a lot of progress, and we'll see. You know, they still have to agree to the final stages of a document, but I think you could be very well surprised what happens there, and it'd be a great thing for them. They could have a great country into the future. Yeah.
Mr. President, Elon Musk in a television interview criticized the one beautiful bill, saying he was disappointed it didn't cut enough, essentially, that it undercut the DOGE efforts. What's your reaction to that?
Well, the reaction's a lot of things. Number one, we have to get a lot of votes. We can't be cutting. We need to get a lot of support, and we have a lot of support. We had to get it through the House. The House was. We have no Democrats. You know, if it's up to the Democrats, they'll take the 65% increase. You know, if that doesn't get approved, this country is going to have a 65% increase in taxes and lots of other problems, big problems, almost bigger than that. But we'll have a 65% increase as opposed to the largest tax cut in the history of our country. We will be negotiating that bill, and I'm not happy about certain aspects of it, but I'm thrilled by other aspects of it. That's the way they go. It's very big. It's the big, beautiful bill, but the beautiful is because of all of the things we have. The biggest thing being, I would say, the level of tax cutting that we're going to be doing. We're going to make people really be able to. We'll have the lowest tax rate we've ever had in the history of our country, and tremendous amounts of benefit are going to the middle-income people of our country, low and middle-income people of our country. So we're going to see what happens, because the Senate, as you know, is negotiating with us, and they have to then go back to the House, and, you know, it's got a way to go. But I have to say, Speaker Johnson and Thune have done an incredible job. John Thune has done a fantastic job, and they're working together with me and others. And I think we have an amazing, if we pull this off, remember, we have 0 Democrat votes because they're bad people. There's something wrong with them. You know, they'll let people pour into our country. Single biggest problem is we had 21 million people pour into our country, probably higher than that.
By the way, these tax cuts that are slated to sunset are his tax cuts from the last administration. Remember, like when he says, oh, there's going to be a massive tax hike, what he's actually saying is the way he designed the tax cuts was so that with the exception of like one tax bracket in the middle, okay, that is not seeing any change, or not in the middle, but like not the top tax bracket, but there's one tax bracket that doesn't see any change in terms of a tax increase. But the only thing that was made permanent is Yeah, second from the highest. The only thing that was made permanent is second from the highest tax bracket, and also the corporate tax rate. Other than that, it's supposed to increase again back to its pre-tax cut levels. That's how they designed it. They designed it to sunset. Now, technically, Trump thought he was going to be a two-term president. So, of course, this would be someone else's problem once he was gone. But because he lost in 2020 and then ran again and then won this last election, now he has to deal with it. But it's funny because he's making it seem as though it's someone else's tax policy that he has to deal with. It's him.
That, and the people that weren't supposed to be here. And many of those people are bad. Murderers, drug dealers, the mentally insane. They were closing mental institutions all over the world, not South America, all over the world. They're coming into our country, and we're getting them out. And we're having a hard time because some judges aren't making it very easy for us, and it's tough enough. They approved that. They allowed that to happen to our country. We don't have one Democrat vote. And if I were a Democrat, I'd be voting for this bill, and I'd get elected to any position I want as a Democrat. They're crazy. They're voting for a 65% tax increase. And they're only doing it for hatred. They're not doing it for any reason.
They're only doing it for
They know
hate.
it's terrible. Terrible politics, in my opinion. But so we have no Democrat votes. That means we have to get almost
These
all.
Democrats, they hate beautiful things. I called the bill beautiful. I called the bill beautiful. They hate it. They want ugly things. They want an ugly bill. They want to rename it to the ugliest bill anyone's ever seen. It's clear they don't like beautiful things.
Republican votes. And I think we're very close to doing that. I think it'll be very
These
successful.
are tax
Yeah,
hikes
please.
of hatred.
Wall Street analysts have pointed to something called the taco trade. They're saying Trump always chickens out on your tariff threats, and that's why markets are higher this week. What's your response to that?
I kick out?
Chicken out.
Oh, isn't that nice? Chicken out. I've never heard that. You mean because I reduced China from 145% that I set down to 100 and then down to another number? And I said you have to open up your whole country. And because I gave the European Union a 50% tax tariff, and they called up and they said, please, let's meet right now. Please, let's meet right now. And I said, okay, I'll give you till July 9. I actually asked them, I said, what's the date? Because they weren't willing to meet. And after I did what I did, they said, we'll meet anytime you want. And we have an end date of July 9th. You call that chickening out? Because we have $14 trillion now invested, committed to investing when Biden didn't have practically anything. This country was dying. You know, we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. I went to Saudi Arabia. The king told me. He said, you got the hottest we have the hottest country in the world right now.
So
6 months ago, this country was stone cold dead. We had a dead country. We had a
Hot
country
like
people didn't think
Ivanka.
was going to survive.
My
and you ask a
daughter.
nasty question like that.
So hot.
It's called negotiation. You set a number. And
That's
if you go,
why
if I
lasting
set
it.
a number at a ridiculous high number and I go down a little bit, a little bit, they want me to hold that number, 145% tariff. Even I said, man, that really got up. You know how it got? Because of fentanyl and many other things, and you added it up. I said, where are we now? We're at 145%. I said, whoa, that's high. That's high. They were doing no business whatsoever, and they were having a lot of problems. We were very nice to China. I don't know if they're going to be nice to us, but we were very nice to China. And in many ways, I think we really helped China tremendously because, they were having great difficulty because we were basically going cold turkey with China. We were doing no business because of the tariff, because it was so high. But I knew that. But don't ever say what you said. That's a nasty question. Go ahead. To me, that's the nastiest.
Mr. President,
Wait a minute. Wait. Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
President Zelensky says he's ready to sit down with you and Vladimir Putin in Geneva, and it sounds like General Kellogg is working on preparations for that. Are you planning to sit down with the two of them?
Well, I
in
will if
Geneva?
it's necessary. It takes. We have to. I think I'm at this point. I wish it would have been that way a couple of months ago, but at this point, we're working on President Putin, and we'll see where we are. I think we're doing fine, but we'll see. I don't like what's happening. That's one thing I'll say. I don't like when I see rockets being shot into cities. That's no good. We're not going to allow it.
You've always said that the war never would have started if you were
Would have never
president.
happened, and it
yet
didn't
he doesn't
happen.
seem willing to do anything that you want him to do. Do you still believe that he wouldn't have launched the war?
No, we would have never had a war. We would have never had a war. If I were president, if the election weren't rigged, you wouldn't have had the war. You wouldn't have had the war. You wouldn't have had inflation. You wouldn't have had October 7th. That would have never happened because Iran was stone cold broke. They didn't have any money to give to Hamas or Hezbollah. You wouldn't have had that Afghanistan most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. You wouldn't have had any of it. You wouldn't have had inflation because energy costs. Look what happened. I brought inflation down to practically zero. And all of the groceries and all of the eggs and all of the things that you've been hearing about, they're back down. They're way down from where they were. I did something in 4 months that nobody's seen. And I have to say, in 4 months, and I said it before, and everyone's talking about it all over the world, we've got the hottest country anywhere in the world right now. We're the only country anybody's even talking about. All right, please go ahead.
What stopped you from imposing these sanctions on Russia?
Only the fact that if I think I'm close to getting a deal, I don't want to screw it up by doing that. Let me tell you, I'm a lot tougher than the people you're talking about, but you have to know when to use that. If I think it's going to hurt a deal, this isn't my war. This is Biden's war, Zelensky's war, and Putin's war. This isn't Trump's war. I'm only here for one thing, to see if I can end it, to save 5,000 lives a week and a lot of money. The money being much less important, because I made that money. I went to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and UAE, and we brought back $5.1 trillion. So I made that money in about 2 hours, the money that we're talking about, but it's still think of it, $300 billion we've spent with no checks, no balances. They just send cash. You can imagine what's happened to that money. I never saw anything like it in my life, but I'm more interested.
I think he thinks checks and balances mean literally a checkbook. I have never been more committed to the theory that Trump doesn't know what asylum seeker is, and he thinks that it means that we're letting in people from insane asylums, than at this very moment, where when he says checks and balances, I think he literally means like an account balance with a checkbook, which is, of course, based. Joe Biden would never be able to do this. Based.
Because I picked up $5.1 trillion, and by the way, got a beautiful, big, magnificent, free airplane for the United States Air Force, okay? Very proud of that, too. They tried to say, oh, it's Trump's airplane. Oh, yeah, sure. It's too big. Frankly, it's too big, much too big.
When can we expect that to be the Air Force One?
Well, it's here already.
Yeah.
It's in the country. It's being refitted for military standard.
How much will it cost to refit it?
Oh, I don't know. Whatever it is, a lot less than building a new one. We're waiting too long from Boeing. Boeing has got to get its act together. Yeah.
Sir, on Nippon Steel, this arrangement that was just announced in the Golden Share, is that an arrangement you would consider for TikTok as well?
Nothing to do with TikTok. Totally different kind of a deal. We'll have to get, to do it properly, we'll probably have to get China's approval. China's never easy. China's never easy. But I think we'll be able to save TikTok. I'd like to save TikTok. I mean, TikTok was very good to me. I won the young people by 37%. No Republicans ever won, and I won by 37%. And Charlie Kirk will tell you TikTok helped, but Charlie Kirk helped also. Oh, he just happens to be here. Look at him. He loves that we mentioned that name, right, Charlie? He's done great, and I appreciate all the help. But with young people, we won by 37%, Charlie, and you helped. But TikTok was amazing. And he was the first one. He said, get on TikTok. So I have a little bit of a warm spot. I know I shouldn't. They'll say quid pro quo, put him in jail for the rest of his life, quid pro quo. No, TikTok was very good to me. I won young people. I don't know if it was because of TikTok, but it was something happened. No Republican has ever won they call them young people. Young people, you can define it a lot of different ways, but I won every age group in young people. And it never happened, and won by 37%. That's a lot.
Yeah, it didn't happen. It didn't happen this time either.
Did you warn Prime Minister Netanyahu against taking some sort of actions that could disrupt the talks there in a phone call last week?
Well, I'd like to be honest.
I call them
Yes, I
young
did.
people.
Next question, please.
They don't call them young people anymore. I call them young
It's not a
people.
warning. I said I don't think it's appropriate.
What exactly did you tell him? Did
I
you
just said
caution
I
him?
don't think it's appropriate. We're having very good discussions with him, and I said I don't think it's appropriate right now, because if we can settle it with a very strong document, very strong, with inspections and no trust. I don't trust anybody. I don't trust anybody. So no trust. I want it very strong where we can go in with inspectors. We can take whatever we want. We can blow up whatever we want, but nobody getting. We can blow up a lab, but nobody's going to be in the lab, as opposed to everybody being in the lab and blowing it up, right? Two ways of doing it. Yeah, I told him this would be inappropriate to do right now because we're very close to a solution. Now, that could change at any moment, could change with a phone call. But right now, I think they want to make a deal, and if we can make a deal, save a lot of lives.
When do you think a deal could happen on Iran?
On which?
A deal with Iran could happen. When do you
Oh, I
think?
don't know. I think over the next couple of weeks, if it happens. Yeah.
And on the, when could the administration resume the interviews for foreign students visa? When do you think your administration could resume these interviews?
On what?
For the foreign student visa. Yesterday there was...
For the French visa?
For the French too, but all the foreign students.
Oh, for the foreign visas? What are you referring? Foreign visas for what? Are you talking about for colleges?
College
Okay, so
students.
you're off of Israel. Now you're talking about colleges, right?
Yes, now.
Okay. Well, we're going to see. Look, Harvard has been a disaster. They've taken $5 billion plus. $5 billion. Nobody knew that they were making this kind. If we didn't do this, we would have never found this out, Pam. They're taking $5 billion. And I'd rather see that money go to trade schools. And by the way, they're totally anti-Semitic at Harvard, as you know, and some other colleges too, in all fairness to them. And it's been exposed, very exposed. And I think they're dealing very badly. Every time they fight, they lose another $250 million. Yesterday, we found another $100 million. And they have, they have a fund, an endowment, $52 billion. All right?
Nobody knew the government grants going to Harvard was $5 billion. It's so funny. Like, it's a matter of public record. Like, how do you think this happened?
They get a lot of that from the United States, and I think it's ridiculous. I think this, everyone's coming up to me saying, we love the idea of trade schools. With that kind of money, and money from others, but money from them, you can have the best trade schools anywhere in the world. You give them to Iowa, Indiana, lots of good states, well-run states, and you give them the money, they can only be used for trade schools, and they'll teach people how to build motors and cars and AI, the AI, we're building plants, we're building hundreds of billions of dollars worth of AI plants, already started, many of them. We've never had a boom like we're having now. You're going to see it. There's never been anything like it. So we're up to about $14 trillion in investments. There's never been anything even close. You look at Biden, this guy, they had people leaving as opposed to investing. And they're doing it because of November 5th, and they're doing it because of the tariffs. The tariffs have been tremendous. I can promise you, and I have great respect for the people at the European Union, they wouldn't be over here today negotiating if I didn't put a 50% tariff on. The sad thing is now when I make a deal with them, it's something much more reasonable. They'll say, oh, he was chicken. He was chicken.
Oh.
That's so unbelievable.
He's still mad. Oh, the chicken thing actually pissed him off, huh? Oh, Taco Trump is bad, dude. On the one hand, I think it's really funny. On the other hand, I think it's really dangerous. I think it's really dangerous that he's this insecure that this could cause him to KFC double down on a bunch of crazy. It's wild that as a child, child, you can manipulate him into any position. This is where the chicken thing comes from, by the way. Trump erupted on a reporter for asking him about taco, a new term flying around Wall Street that stands for Trump always chickens out. Traders are loading up and dumping stocks based on Trump's erratic approach to announcing tariffs and then retreating on them. Trump was furious when the reporter asked about the term a few minutes ago, as we watched, and said he considered it one of the nastiest questions imaginable. He later returned to the topic and insisted that he was no chicken and that usually people said the opposite, that he's too tough. I'm not going to lie. I don't know if they're saying that on Wall Street, but I hope they start saying it everywhere. We need to say it for Israel. We need to say he's chicken with Israel. We need to talk about how scared he is of Benjamin Netanyahu or something. I think he's going to facilitate the invasion of Tel Aviv if we push him hard enough. Wow, I can't believe how much Benjamin Netanyahu manipulates you, Donald Trump. I really thought that you would be America first. It seems like America last under your leadership. It's really messed up how big of a bitch you are to Benjamin Netanyahu. Yeah, really feels like he's running the show over there, huh? Are you that scared of Benjamin Netanyahu? Show us what you got, big man. Yeah, Mr. President, many are saying that Biden would have invaded Tel Aviv way harder than you. Mr. President, many people are saying Biden actually was at the precipice of a complete invasion of Tel Aviv.
I usually have the opposite problem. They say you're too tough.
Mr. President, on Harvard, there were some Jewish students protesting on campus yesterday. They said they don't want you making these huge cuts, cutting off student visas to Harvard in their name, because
Well,
they feel
Harvard
like it
has
makes
to show
them more
us.
of a target.
Okay, Harvard has to show us their lists. They have foreign students. About 31% of their students are foreign-based, almost 31%. We want to know where those students come. Are they troublemakers? What countries do they come? And we're not going to, if somebody is coming from a certain country and they're 100% fine, which I hope most of them are, but many of them won't be, you're going to see some very radical people. They're taking people from areas of the world that are very radicalized, and we don't want them making trouble in our country. So I saw yesterday that in the middle of the UK, there was a nice young man. He wants to go back to school at Harvard, and he looked good to me, but I want to check his past. But we want to be able to see why, these countries aren't helping us. They're not investing in Harvard and all of our, we are. So why would 31%, why would a number so big? I think, number one, I think they should have a cap of maybe around 15%, not 31%. We have people who want to go to Harvard and other schools. They can't get in because we have foreign students there. But I want to make sure that the foreign students are people that can love our country. We don't want to see shopping centers exploding. We don't want to see the kind of riots that you had. And I'll tell you what, many of those students didn't go anywhere. Many of those students were troublemakers caused by the radical left lunatics in this country. All right, one more question.
President,
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Will you pardon the people who are accused of conspiring to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer?
I'm going to look at it. I will take a look at it. It's been brought to my attention. I did watch the trial. It looked to me like somewhat of a railroad job. I'll be honest with you. It looked to me like some people said some stupid things. They were drinking, and I think they said stupid things. But I'll take a look at that. And a lot of people are asking me that question from both sides, actually. A lot of people think they got railroaded. A lot of people think they got railroaded. And probably some people don't. One more. Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead.
How will the confrontation with Harvard end? You will see.
I don't know. I don't know. Harvard's got to behave themselves. Harvard is treating our country with great disrespect, and all they're doing is getting in deeper and deeper and deeper. They've got to behave themselves. I'm looking out for the country and for Harvard. I want Harvard to do well. I want Harvard to be great again, probably, because how could it be great? How could it be great when you have Harvard announced 2 weeks ago that they're going to teach remedial mathematics, remedial, meaning they're going to teach low-grade mathematics, like 2 + 2 is 4. How did these people get into Harvard if they can't do basic mathematics? How did they do it? I mean, people with 1,600 on their boards don't get in, and they're letting people in, and they're bragging about how they're teaching them basic mathematics. Where did these people come from? So we have to look at the list, and Harvard has to understand the last thing I want to do is hurt them. They're hurting themselves. They're fighting. Columbia has been they were very, very bad what they've done. They're very anti-Semitic and lots of other things. But they're working with us on finding a solution. And, they're taking off that hot seat. But Harvard wants to fight. They want to show how smart they are, and they're getting their ass kicked. Thank you very much, everybody.
Part of me wants to keep saying, are you happy now, you stupid libtards that ran on the panic button? You created this issue. You gave him all of the opportunity to weaponize false smears of anti-Semitism to just undermine every liberal institution that you guys cherish. You did this. You did this. You did this. Like, this right here is straight Hitlerian policy, academic receivership. mass lists of foreign students that they want specifically so they can start the process of deportation of foreign students for whichever organization that they might be a part of that they consider to be bad. Libs did this, dude. They did it. They set up, they leaned into this idiotic notion that there was a wave of anti-Semitism that was overtaking all these college campuses, and Trump is perfectly using that opportunity to dismantle the intelligentsia. Okay? Good job. I hope you're happy. They still do it. They're still on the same team, but they have visas. The government already has their info. Yeah, but the government doesn't have extensive information on what kind of activities that they're doing on college campuses. They want that. They want private information about the students that normally these institutions are supposed to shelter from the government. And they want to do it without conducting like a legal search. They want to do warrantless surveillance that schools normally maintain and obviously maintain without ever issuing to the government, unless there is a reason to do so. But you can't get this information without a warrant, and you can't get this information for every single foreign student.